Meeting is called to order. This is the October 15, 2025 board meeting for the Board of Voter Registration and Elections of Beaufort County. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda is public comments. We have one member of the public. Are you interested in making any comments? Okay, great, you're on.
So, my name is Steve Wilkinson. I work my position there is not on your description of positions in voting because I was the parking lot attendant and the street traffic director. So I came because I've mentioned the problems there to a couple people, and the response was, oh, well, the county's going to pave that parking lot. The problem is not it being paved or not paved. The problem is the parking lot was totally insufficient for the volume of voters that we had. And I was out there from an hour before voting to the end and trying to keep people somewhat in line. Now, if you had a parking lot with painted spaces, that might help, but it also might hinder it because they won't paint spaces to deal with the number of cars. And it's like it's just like a system that's meant for a certain amount of water flow, and you have double that. You have a monsoon, and it became very chaotic at times. And my comment is only that I think that voting place is going to continue to have number of people coming to it that it has in the past. That the number one, there should be some kind of public direction of traffic there, because what happens is the parking lot, even with two of us in the parking lot trying to direct people, it was people back to the street and then parking on the street. They were parking on both sides of it. It became I think a hazard, and a couple mirrors were clipped. It wasn't, any big deal, but I'm saying it seemed to me that's a public policing job. It should have, if somebody's on the street directing traffic, it should not be a volunteer. It should be a county officer or something who has authority and who would not become a liability if something did happen there. So I there where you have other people parking there. You have the pickleball courts and you have other, so it's not just voters, it's other people who are better way to deal with it.
Okay, Steve, thank you for your comment. And it sounds like you stepped up and took ownership to the best of your ability during early voting last time. So, right. So appreciate that, and appreciate your comments as well. So we have asked Administrator Moore to help us with a parking study. So your input will be helpful for our follow-up with him about that. Thank you.
Just add one thing. Steve is one of my excellent workers. He is there doing early voting, doing everything, and then he handles the Moss Creek precinct, doing a great job. I always tell him that I always look forward for him coming back. So yeah, we do need to make sure that we get things done so our workers are safe. Because as he said, if a fire truck got to come through, then you got traffic on both sides of the road, or an ambulance, it could be a major disaster.
And we did have fire trucks.
Mm-hmm.
The fire trucks had trouble getting.
And also, you mentioned monsoon. We were quite lucky not to have any rain during those 2 weeks of early voting, but if we had had rain, it would have been an issue here as well as at Ulmer Road. So, appreciate your comments. Okay, seeing no other public present, we'll move on to the next item, which is the meeting minutes from September 24th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Aline Mitchell, so move.
Second.
Mr. Sawicki seconds. Okay, comments? I have a few comments. So in the legislative affairs section, I'd just like to clarify in the third bullet, we did not present a resolution. We presented 3 issue documents. So let's call them issue documents and just specify that they had been approved by the board on July 17. And then just a kind of a general drafting question for the notes. Somebody took a lot of time to cut and paste the director's report into these notes. Would it make more sense just to attach a PDF version of the black and white director's presentation?
It's just always been that way.
Okay, it's your choice. All right, any other comments on the notes? Okay, all in favor to accept based on the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous. Okay, next is committee reports. So we'll start with Mr. Backer for Budget and Finance.
No new reports since we met just recently on September 24th. The plan would be to meet probably in the second half of November after the elections and take a look at where we stand with the operational budget, what spending was for this election, and then an update on the capital projects.
Okay. And Mr. Cooper was on that committee, correct? Okay, may I take his place for the moment? Okay. Mr. Ford, any remarks for the Facilities Committee?
Yes, thank you. We didn't have a formal meeting, but I just wanted to repeat again that the issue referencing the Shell Hall issue is one that we had stated that we would discuss at a November, possibly December meeting, depending on the staff workload. And the same applies to Justice E 1 and 2 that Mr. Becker brought up at the last board meeting. We want to take a look at that and see if we can reconcile that issue as well. So we hope to bring those 2 issues to surface if we can do it at the November meeting, we will. If not, it'll be at the December meeting. But I don't think any of them are earth-shattering and has to be done urgently. So I think we have time to facilitate both of those.
Any questions for Mr. Ford? Okay, thank you. Legislative Affairs Committee, I have no report. Re-precincting Committee, Mr.
I have
Orr?
no report.
No report. Rules Committee.
We now have a operations manual. I think all of you have one at your place. And I am going to ask that there's a document that acknowledges your receipt of that. If you could fill those out and give them to Chris so that we have a record of every board member who has received the copy of this. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Johnson? Okay, next on the list, unfinished business. So approval of voting equipment allocations on Election Day. And I'd like to add to that poll worker allocations. So I did have some questions about the equipment allocation. Is that something that we want to ask Vernon?
Yeah,
to fill us in
unfortunately,
on?
I thought they'd be back by now. They're
Yeah.
actually they had hauled some equipment over to the storage place, and I thought they'd be back. As soon as he gets back, we can, if you want to like switch that with,
Okay.
Insurance.
We
Hopefully
can
he'll be
defer
back.
that. And how about the poll worker allocations? Do we have summaries of those yet?
You sent them,
They exist.
yeah, they-
I sent the updated ones to Mr. Backer and Miss Mitchell because theirs were changed more drastically. Like, I think Miss Mitchell got a new clerk and Mr. Backer got a couple workers, didn't show up for their briefing. Other than that, they should all be the same. So they exist. The ones that are in the election have already received those lists.
Okay, could we, maybe when we take the break for executive session, could you print out those lists for us? And we'll take a vote to accept them together with the equipment allocations. Okay, on the insurance matter, so I had a conference, a Zoom call this morning with the Assistant Administrator, Audra, Risk Management, Kyle Jackson, and the County Attorney, Brian Hulbert, to discuss the letter that I sent to Mr. Moore, Administrator Moore, dated October 9th. They met together with Mr. Moore over the past couple of days and have come up with two options for us regarding insurance. The first option would be to procure South Carolina Insurance Reserve Fund general liability insurance for us on a standalone basis for the board and purchase commercial D&O insurance. And the second option would be to purchase both general liability and D&O insurance from a commercial carrier. So it's expected that buying both of those policies through a commercial carrier will be more cost efficient. So we're in the process now of getting revised quotes from the carriers who previously provided quotes for D&O insurance to add general liability insurance. Mr. Jackson had asked IRF to evaluate whether or not our 9-person body could be added to the county's IRF policy for liability insurance. And the final response after review was no, we can't be. So we would need to have a standalone policy. So that's really the status. We're going to evaluate the cost difference between purely commercial policies versus the IRF for liability and commercial for D&O, and then we'll make a decision on that. As far as the costs are concerned, the risk management budget would cover the costs for this financial year, but for the next financial year, we'll have to include the costs in our budget. So. Okay, any questions about insurance?
Is there a time limit or time frame to get this done?
As quickly as we can, yes.
ASAP, okay.
Yes. Okay, so,
Matt, I have a
yes,
question.
yes.
You may not have the answer, but do you know what the cost would be?
Well, the cost for general liability from IRF is about $10,500 per year, and the D&O coverage, the quotes have been between $7,500 and $8,500 per year. So if we get those bundled together in a commercial policy, it could be less than that combined $18,000, $19,000. Probably will be. Any other questions? Okay, next is new business. I don't have.
Sorry, just one question. Once we have the quotes, will risk management issue
Yes.
in subsequent years?
I didn't get into subsequent years, but for this year, they would issue the requisition and provide the funding, yes. Any other questions, comments? No? Okay. New business. I have no new business. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, next is the director's report.
Share, I need to share it, but I need to go. Oh, he's in? Okay. Okay. For our report to say, and I think everybody got a copy of it, things we wanted to go over today is some more election updates, not too many, nothing too much has changed. We do have one CIP update and then miscellaneous updates. Oh, wow. Okay, once again, Town of Port Royal, 2 seats, Town of Bluffton, 2 seats, no runoff, Town of Yemassee, 2 council seats and the mayor. And of all the 3, that might be the one we have a runoff in. And it might not directly affect us having to do anything, but if we are required, then we will have to, have a runoff with them. Hopefully it will, won't come down to that for that particular seat. The public notices have gone out. The first went out on September the 5th, and the second went out on the 19th. We will be having the hand count audit on that next day here at 10 o'clock. It is open to the public. Once again, we have one from Bluffton and one from this side, and we won't announce that until the day of the election, which 2 we're going to actually use. Oh, you're good, you're here. All right, the canvas hearing also will be here. Once again, Bluffton will handle their own canvas hearing. In other words, they will go first, and the 3 people in their municipal election commission will go through their hearing just like we do. And then after that, we will have the Town of Port Royal at 10:30. Once again, updating or letting us see about the early voting. It will be from the 20th to the 24th and the 27th to the 31st at both places, here and in the Bluffton Rec Center. They're actually doing a deep cleaning at the Bluffton Rec Center today to make it appropriate for the election. We will have 4 BMDs here and 6 BMDs at the Bluffton office. And once again, the Bernal Park office has been open since the 22nd on a daily basis. All poll workers and the staff attended the training on the 7th or the 9th. And clerks had their list of workers and are in contact with them. Gene did resend out all the lead clerks. They've been sent the location POC information to get in touch with the persons to set up and determine, and they're supposed to call their workers to let them know what time they want to set up, either the night before or early that morning. And all the board members involved have their list as well.
Could you send us the point of contact?
Distribution will be the Town of Bluffton at the Bluffton Library from 11 to 12. Port Royal will be here in the office 11 to 4. Part of that and part of those will also be the distribution of the for the lead clerks as well, the 21st and the 23rd. Okay. Capital improvement project status. We did have one major CIP that is completed and now in effect. I can't tell you what it is in a public venue, so that should give you some idea what it is. It is working, and all the staff have been trained on how to use it and everything, but they've got that finished and completed, and that actually was one on our list, and it is down and gone and totally completed. And it is paid for, been paid for. It's not out of our pocket, it was out of the county's pocket, so that is done. The other ones, we have no other information on at this time. And this was updated, I told you last month that because Mr. Becker brought up a question about the numbers weren't matching up, and he was right, and I went back and we recounted and realized, but this one was correct, this slide was correct, this was the one, this one needed to be changed, because I think we had two different numbers up there that weren't supposed to be here. So this is actually a percentage of the status of precincts within their polling location, polling locations within their precincts, and those that are out. We have 57 that are out, which is 43% of what we have. And here's the breakdown of those 57. 42 in the next precinct, there are 10 that are 2 away, and there are 5 that are 3 away, which comes out to the 57.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Those ones that are located 3 away, are those Sun City?
Sun City, yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to be
pray
sure.
I don't know how we're gonna ever get, that's just one of those things of life.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure.
Okay, we had the county budget kickoff meeting on last Wednesday. And I think they took the ACA's departments separately throughout the course of the day. We were at 1 o'clock. They gave us the basics calendar, which I will send to everybody and Mr. Backer and the Finance Committee as well. The only major thing, and we're kind of ahead of it, November 27th is when they want capital requests due, or they want your listing of what you want to have for 27's capital requests. And we already have a list, and I'll look at maybe whatever else we might want to add to that so that we can get that by November 27th. But we're ahead of the thing with that. One thing I would like to say that was announced in the meeting, the CFO was telling everyone about, as you set up your budget, one of the things that the administrator really likes is if you itemize, your line items. He's actually going to literally go through everybody's budget line by line. She says that's his thing, he will do it. He said in last year's budget, he commended our office because he really liked the way we had itemized our budget line items, and that everybody should take example from us here at voter registration. So we did a good job, okay? Other miscellaneous updates. The SEC sent a ballot reconciliation in-depth review of the 2022 ballot reconciliation forms for every county. And they asked us, they've gone to a new method, and I commended the office on that, because in the past, they would say gotcha and put it in the public before you had a chance to address it. This time they gave us an opportunity to address whatever issues we thought there were. This has been the bane of all of the directors in the county, because 2022, the disposition on those is that they can be destroyed or whatever. But, they came in and copied all of the ballot reconciliation. Well, not all. They chose, I forgot, I think they took one precinct. For us, they took 43 precincts. And ran copies of those, scanned those 43, and that's where they went back and studied from 2022, which was 3 years ago, and the election is over. But we had 8 out of 43 that were not fully reconciled. That was either the lines were, the amounts of cards were wrong on the lines when the clerk put it on there, because back then the clerks were putting on their numbers on the line. For instance, I have 1,500 ballots. And so a couple of the things that they were saying that, we would always tell them, do not open it unless you need to open it. And they were saying some of them are coming in off 9. It could be as much as 9 off, because they would do it by weight versus what's really in there. So some of those things we didn't know anything about, we wouldn't have known anything about. They did an exhaustive study of the 2022 election to come up with some of the things that came. Some of them, they weren't legible. Some of them, the math was wrong, which since then, we addressed the needed corrections for review, and we returned our responses back to them. And they sent the final draft, and we sent back our final response. And they, we did very well compared to a lot of the other counties. The things that were issues for us weren't things that were major issues in the scheme of how this review was. One of the things that we did.
Wendell, Beverly has.
Just wanted to ask, the next time that a training is done on the completion of the ballot reconciliation worksheets, if you could provide an opportunity for us to sit in on that meeting, because when we're monitoring our precincts, that's one thing that I need to look at the close of the day, whether
ma'am.
they're headed in the right direction or whether there's some way that we can make those reconciliation worksheets come out right.
Yeah, in November, we did it directly following the mandatory briefing, and I don't know who all, but most of the board members did stay for that clerk training and got that. So that's how we'll probably continue to do it, just because then the poll workers don't have to go 2 different places, 2 different times, 2 different days, So that's how we'll probably continue to do that.
Yeah, I was saying that it's going to have to be done at this election, so if there's an opportunity that we could observe and participate in that.
Go ahead, Mr. Sweeney.
And the sample size of 43, was that 43 precincts or 43 polling locations?
43 it's polling locations. I had a discussion with the auditor, and they understand the issues involved. First off, let me do a disclaimer. This was 2022. This is 2025. They have changed the process and the forms 3 times since then.
Right, that's
But
what
they
I
were
was
sitting there
talking about.
asking us to deal with 2022, and we're like, well, what difference did it make now? You've already changed the process or whatever. But we filled everything out and did it. But one of the issues that they did list in there was basically it should have been done at the precinct level. So I explained to them, and I know for a fact, Vernon, me, Marie, and Mike were sitting on a phone call when we first got the EPBs. Because the way the EPBs are set up, you set 2 EPBs, you say you have a place with more than 2 precincts, and you set up the EPBs, you can go to any EPB and check in. So you can use their cards. So you can't keep a track of whose card you're using when you have, and you can go to any EPB at a polling location. So we in the meeting, and these were the tech guys on the phone with everybody because they were teaching us how to use the EPBs, and we asked the question, Beaufort asked the question, we said, well, it's not gonna make sense to do it by precinct when you have a place that has more than 1 precinct in it. We have to do it by the location because all the cards can be used at anywhere in the location. I said, and they said, oh yeah, y'all are right. I said, well, and this is what I specifically asked. I said, could you please say that out loud so that everybody in the county can hear that this is what the state is telling us? And they did. They said, yes, if you're in a place where it has more than 1 precinct, you don't do it by precinct, you will do it by the location.
Just one.
One, right, just one. So that's when that changed. But on the audit report, they were saying they were addressing the law, which we all know is what the situation is with the law, about having 1 polling location, 1 precinct per polling location. And I said, I gave her that same story. I said, well, the state is the one that told us this is how it's supposed to be done because of the situation with the EPBs. So she said, we know, we have to go back and do more research. I said, well, as an audit agency, maybe y'all can push to have some legislation to make it more reasonable so all of us won't be in that situation in the future. So, she said, well, that's part of what we want to try to do. Because if we have some factual background showing things that are causing issues because of the way this law is written, we may be able to get some things moving a little bit faster. It'll help, in other words.
So does that mean that the current ballot reconciliation worksheets are still based on a single
Location.
precinct? No, based on a
Location.
single.
It's still by location because we got EPBs. You cannot change that until,
But the reconciliation worksheet is now set up so that you can clearly see whether that reconciliation is for multiple precincts in one location versus.
That conversation was years ago. So
Okay.
currently, it's still the by location way.
In other words, they have not, what, I don't know whether they had picked up, I mean, one of the statements they made in their report, and this was for every, they did it for every county, not just Beaufort, they did it for every county, was that we noticed how the reconciliation forms, and some of them were for more than one precinct. It should be done at the precinct level. And that's why I had to point out to her, it can't be done at the precinct level when you have that kind of situation because of the EPBs. And she said, yeah, we know, we got to go back in and do more research. Because it was almost a thing of the audit department was told, do this from 2022, but they didn't give them all of the things they needed to do to make the audit, for them to understand why certain things happen a certain way. And, you know, I pointed it out, and several other directors and were pointing it out as well. And I mean, we had constantly, well, this was brought up at SCARE, if I remember correctly, when they were sitting, when the audit person was up on the stage, we actually pointed it out then. Like, y'all are asking us to address 2022 when you've changed the process 3 times since then. So nobody could understand why we were doing this when we could have been doing, like, say, 2024 or something like that. They wanted to go all the way back to 2022. And we were addressed by 3 auditors with the same question over and over again. And we had, Marie would always say, well, you already asked us this. And we don't know who necessarily was doing that particular sheet or why it was not legible. They were asking questions about stuff that was 3 years old. And we did it the best we could.
So going forward, we have to use the state-provided form for these reconciliations.
Yeah,
We
we've always
can't do
used
our-
it.
Yeah, we can't make our own. Can we train our clerks that at the top of the form, they put the name of the person who filled it out and which precincts are included in those totals?
They do.
Okay, they are doing
Yeah,
that
they do
now.
that, yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's not a name at the top on who filled it out. The clerk has to sign the bottom. So
Okay,
it's
so
a
you're,
signature.
it's the signature that tells us, the head clerk. And you made one other comment about, that I was a little confused on. You know, we know that they come wrapped up in groups of 50, and our clerks just say, okay, that's 50 because we never opened it. It's 50, we've never opened. Did you say that the auditors determined the number by the weight?
Yeah, one of the things they said, you could, like, they were talking about the plastic wrap ones in packs of 250. They were saying it's, and it's something we know, we teach them opposite. Like, if you don't open it, you know it's 250, because that's all you can base it on.
Because the wrapped ones come from the state.
Yeah.
Okay, they
So-
come from the state.
Right, so what they were saying is, well, if you sat there and relied on that, then that's where you can probably have a problem, because some of them could be 9 off, because it's measured by, they say they wrap it by weight, which is really hard for me to believe.
No, I can believe that.
But I mean, that's what they were saying. But and I'll just give you what we responded, what we have done over the last, not last month, but 3 months prior. Vernon and the staff took I think we had probably over 200,000 ballot cards. Huh?
Oh, you said 200?
Yeah, 200, I know 10. Yeah. And they ran them through the 450 at 75 a piece. I mean, 75 or 50? 50 a batch. I mean, 50 a pack. And so we know now that all of ours are strapped at 50.
We banded them.
We banded them ourselves.
With the bands that you put around them that tell you the sequence numbers. Well, we didn't do the sequence numbers, we just banded them and then we put them back in their white boxes that holds up to 750 ballots per those white boxes. And so we did every last one of them.
So we can tell our clerks that if they're banded and marked 50, that they can rely on that, and they don't have to go back and recount, because I
Right.
know
They don't
some
have to
clerks
recount or
go
any of that.
back and
Right.
recount them to make sure there's actually 50 in the
Right, and
band.
what we do now, what we have done since we started it after 2022, is when we give them their cards, we put the number in on the form. In other words, you have 1,500. We put that at the top.
Right.
And whatever, and you have 30 provisional ballots or 30 paper
Right.
ballots. We put that number in. They were saying that a lot of places did not have that. Well, we had already started doing it after 2022. So they were addressing things that had already been taken care of. Oh, okay, yeah, they were addressing things that had already been taken care of. You pass it down if they want to take a look at it. So,
Oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, and then also, I made a statement, and I'm sure other directors made a statement, that if you want to be more proactive in the future, please have deal with issues that are current and not issues that have been, the disposition rule is 2 years. And they wanted us doing stuff on 3-year-old stuff. So, I said, if you want more proactive and efficient processes, have it be done on current things and not things that are beyond the disposition age. As well as, I commended them, I said, thank you for asking us to address what we find an issue in your report or your review before you put it in the public eye, because I'd rather address it, because you may have seen, case in point, and I don't know if y'all knew about this situation. They sent some of their staff down during, was it November? They did that to us, Brian? Well, they sent them down to the early voting sites, and they didn't tell us that they were there. So they were coming to do, not an inspection, but kind of like
I think it was the PPPs.
The PPPs,
Because
yeah.
I was still at the government
Yeah.
center.
And they sent them down, and they would come in and they didn't tell you who they were. So all we could think of that they were observers. And we put our observers in a specified section. So we didn't know that they were the state. It doesn't matter because we don't care. But they went back and they came out with a report, and the report said that they were talking about in the Bluffton Center, they said no seals were observed on the left side of the scanner. And I called Roz, I said, Roz, ain't there seals on? She said, yeah, there's seals on the scanner. I said, well, how come she said, I don't even know who that was that came. We never knew who it was. They checked in and said they were observers or whatever, and we put them in this spot. But they don't get a chance to go over and look on the other side of the
They
scanner.
can't see it from
They
their
can't see it
observer
from where
spot.
they are. So they made a statement that no seals were observed. Technically, that's a correct statement.
Yep.
But perceptionally, it's an incorrect statement because it makes it look like we didn't have any seals on the left side of the thing. But they didn't even ask us about it or tell us about it. They put it on a public report.
And for all 4 of us, they said they didn't observe absentee ballot boxes. Well, we have them hidden. They're not just sitting in the middle of our center.
So I went at Scare, I went round and round with the audit department lead. I said, you can't do that. That's wrong. Y'all keep telling us y'all don't want to do these gotcha moments, but that's what you're doing when you do something like that. I said,
Outside of SCARE, is there a forum where you can provide feedback to the SEC directly?
well, this is what, on this review, this is what, they have changed the process and allowed us to do that. And that's
Give
what I
them
told them.
feedback.
Yeah, I told them, I said, I commend you for making that adjustment. And I don't even know if it came from us all. I don't know if I was the only one crying about it, but I cried about it for 30, 40 minutes.
We weren't the only one.
Yeah, I went round and round with her, and she said, no, we're going to do it like this. I said, that's not right. I said, I don't care if you audit us because we do it the right way. Please come and look. Tell me you come, and then I'll take you straight to it. That's not an issue for me. I want to be audited because that's a good thing. And so she said, no. I said, well, you could have told them while they were there, and we would have taken you around and let you see it. Well, no, because then they would have told the other early voting site they were there. I'm like, that don't matter.
That's ridiculous.
It is, but that was their mentality. So I don't know if that was part of it. The whole state kind of went off on them because they did it to Berkeley. They really did it. They messed Berkeley. I mean, they just really slammed them. And they didn't even know that they were getting slammed until they saw it in the report that was in a public view. So they changed the process and they said, hey, look at this. If you got a comment or want to address something that we said, send it back to us, and then we'll send back what we're going to put out in the final report. So I did that, sent it. They highlighted where they deal with the recommendation, the things that we addressed, and then they sent it back, and we had 3 days or whatever, and then we sent that back saying, all right, thank you, and then I put that letter in there and I readdressed our recommendations or things that we had already done. So, once again, we were only 8, but we, you know, those things were really already taken care of because you can't address them if they're already taken care of. So I let them know that, yeah, these were already taken care of. This is what we do. This is what we have done. And they were happy with that. So, you know, they're getting better. I would like to say they're getting better. And this was a perfect example of that. And I let them know I appreciated them, you know, taking to heart some of the things that the counties had said in reference to that. So that went very well. It really did.
Wendell, I get one question. I apologize if I missed
That's
it.
okay.
How are the ballots counted now when you counted them here? They counted on a machine or by hand?
When you say counted now, what do you mean?
Well, when you counted you said you counted 200,000, you put them in packages.
We counted on the DS-450.
It'll count
Yeah,
them.
there's,
Yeah, we let
there's a
them,
tally of.
and then it'll show the number up there and everything.
Just run
Yeah.
through it, it just does like,
Oh, that's good.
like a field to the bin count. So.
I'm gonna be very quick with this. I didn't know that you all was doing that because in the Bluffton office, I took it upon myself to went through the box and verify those straps are 50.
That's fine,
and
we
they
just
were-
did it, we just did it this summer.
Yeah,
They-
Oh, that was
but,
before- yeah.
yeah, but I'm just saying, but they were right, the ones that I was counting, because some of the clerks were saying, well, maybe they were off, and that's why we can't balance at night, and that was an issue. They weren't taking into account the ones that were spoiled. You got to put that on there when I checked behind my clerks.
But what I did a few times when we had a discrepancy at the end of the night, I would use the number that you issued to us, and then I would put so we could do the reconciliation sheet and balance it. Then I would put a footnote that we found one missing from pile number whatever.
Because see, to be honest with you, on distribution day, and all of y'all have seen that, it's like we tell them go ahead and count it, and then if it's wrapped, we say don't worry about it because it don't make sense to sit there and try to count 250.
Right. Yeah,
It'll
no,
take
no.
all day, and people wouldn't get out of there.
I agree.
And so Vernon took it upon themselves to say, you know what, let's count these. We got them here. Let's just go ahead and count them. The machine can break it down, and now we know we don't have a discrepancy in that department because we know exactly what they are.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Found some packs, you know, like a lot of those wrap packs that they come.
Great. That's a big help.
All precincts, so especially we have them all prepared, not just only for this election, but for.
So for the equipment seal audit, that was unannounced.
Right.
Um,
It wasn't just, that
for-
wasn't the only
for-
thing they were looking at. They were looking at several other things. It was unannounced, and they did not get to go and look at everything the way it should have looked.
And then the ballot reconciliation audit, was that also unannounced, or did we know in advance in 2022 that they would be
No, we had no
audited?
clue. No,
This just showed
this
up a
was,
few
they
months
just
ago.
did this, no, well,
Yeah.
not 2 months. It was like, they started this in like May.
A few months ago.
Oh, I thought you said 2.
No, but back in 2022, did they tell us in
No.
advance
No.
that there would be an audit?
No, because they didn't have it
Back
all.
then,
So
they
do we
didn't
They
even-
didn't
expect,
have an audit
do we
department then.
expect any unannounced audits for this upcoming election?
No,
For municipal, no.
no. No, they're trying to keep it, they're kind of busy right now.
Mostly,
Doing that.
the first step that they'll be probably monitoring.
And they did not identify themselves to the clerks, they just said they were observers. Because they didn't want the clerk to call, like the office
Like,
or
you didn't
other
want to call Gene and
precincts.
say, hey, they're
Well,
coming over to
they
you
started
next.
with me, and then they went to Bluffton, and then Roslyn reached out and said, I had these 2 observers, and I was like, oh, I had them too. So then Chris and Jamie were on notice.
It just seems that as a clerk, if I've got an observer who's trying to like look around and find things that maybe an observer doesn't necessarily need to see, it would help if they identified themselves as auditors and that they would be looking for like a list of these things and could the clerk please show me, like you said,
They
the
did.
absentee
They
ballot.
had a paper, and there were 2 of them, and we could see them with this paper going. But that's all we knew. We didn't know what they were doing. You know, observers and watchers do that anyways, but we just were like, okay.
But it just seems to me that as a clerk, I would be a little uncomfortable with someone coming in and, you know, trying to walk around and look
Well,
for
they
things.
can't. We don't let them. That's the
Well,
issue.
if they're an auditor, then you should be letting them do
Right,
that.
and that's what I told,
We wouldn't let you see it
I said, why didn't they just
Okay.
tell them, we're with the state and we're coming to look at the stuff? I said, that's all, I said, I don't have a problem with you doing that, that's fine. So just tell them. And she says, no, we're not gonna do that because they'll tell the other sites they're coming.
Well, and what we told them was, if that's your concern, have somebody at all 4 of our sites at the same time.
Are we responsible, though, to send somebody that doesn't look behind the machine for the seals?
Well, they can't.
They didn't look behind the machines?
They
and-
can't.
They can't,
They're
because
just
they can
observers.
only sit in one spot.
They can't
in
go
the
over
room.
and look at equipment or anything. They
If you
come
don't
in.
identify yourself.
Why bother sending them?
That's why
That's-
it would make sense for them to have some sort of official
told them.
identification
We told
that
them.
says, you're an auditor from the SEC, and I have the authority to do that kind of thing.
You know what,
Where an
guys?
observer
we didn't even
doesn't.
know because they were from random
They were in
counties.
training, Mac. They were in training and trying to figure out something, because in banking, when they come in to audit, they let you know, and they
Yeah.
have their badge, and where. and
She
where
told,
they
no,
need to
she
go, they
specifically
go.
said, we're not gonna tell you they're there. That's what she told me. And I mean,
Then you can't be written up for anything.
that's my mentality about it, because,
At that.
and then I don't know if y'all remember, I think y'all were at this scare, and they were up on the stage, and she said, well, we're not trying to do these gotcha things with y'all. I said, yes, you are. When you do
Entrapment.
it that way, it's a gotcha. And they would, like I said, they would put it out without you having the opportunity to address it before they put it out. And so that one really, when these guys work so hard to get the stuff right, and then you sit there and say that they didn't do it, and that's not right. And I don't appreciate that.
Trying to make you look bad.
Yeah,
in
to make you
public.
look bad, and I don't appreciate that, because there's too much work going on that gets done and done correctly, and then you're gonna sit there and try to embarrass our county by saying we didn't do something. And she said, well, that's not what we're saying. I said, yes, it is, because that's what people see. They see that you said they didn't see us. Well, all we said is we didn't see it. Well, yeah, you didn't see it because you didn't get a chance to go over and look, because I ain't gonna show you unless you tell me you're an auditor, and I'll take you over there to show you. So it was just really frustrating, and she would not budge.
All right, why don't we move on? I think
Yeah, I'm sorry,
we all
yeah.
know the auditing department is new, less than 5 years. They've got some growing pains, and it sounds like they're receptive to feedback from the counties, so
Now
that's
they are,
okay.
yeah.
Great. Okay, let's move on.
This was just a repeat from last month. We will, after the election, we will mail out the new cards. One of the things, and I talked with Mr. Sweeney about this, the card, they called me and asked what my signature is. Oh, come on, what, hello? Do I just hit okay, or? Oh, no, Bernie went ahead. Okay, yeah. So the state,
Click from current slide. Yeah, the little icons that keep going up, 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 right there. Anyways.
well, the state called and they asked me for my signature to put up there on the cards, and I said, well, I can't. I'm not the interim director or what have you. And they said, well, we need to, we want to put something on there. I said, well, to have Jenny, who's at the state, running the state right now, so to have her put hers on there. And so they checked, and she was not going to put hers on there. So I said, well, can we make an adjustment? So they put I said, put deputy director in my name. So that's how. And I talked with Mr. Sweeney. He said, yeah, that'll be good, because if we didn't put something on there, the voters were going to sign it in that spot. So, and then we do have voters who are like, well, why don't I have a signature on here? And it would have been a big stink. So we just got that taken care of. So that's why mine will be showing up until the new director is chosen. And we've had 2 requests for a community forum. One of them was from a poll worker. He's a brand new poll worker. and he wanted us to come out to their church and he said, because our people need to know about this stuff. The stuff I learned was great. And then we had from the community sing on St. Helena. That's a thing that they do monthly, where on a Sunday afternoon they'll have some singing, and then they have public type forums. And I talked with Gene, and we both kind of agreed there's no need to go until the new year, because the stuff that we'd be telling them now is generic. So what we're going to start in January, because we're going to explain what's going to be going on with the primaries. And one of the biggest things we know that's going to come up is like the sheriff's race. So we want to go into depth in a year that they're going to be able to see it and explain that kind of stuff to them in the public forum, so there won't be any issues and misconceptions when the election does take place. Because we've always had people complaining us, well, why can't I vote in the sheriff thing? So we can explain that starting with the new year. The other thing behind that is every forum we go to, we talk about absentee voting and how you can start at the beginning of the year, call the office and get absentee votes for the whole year. Well, if we're starting in January, right then and there, it's something they can turn around and do on the spot and get it done, versus hearing it in October and not thinking about doing it on January the 2nd. So all of our forums, and both of the people say, oh, that's great. They said, actually, that's better for us. So that's two that we do know that we're starting out with in January to, as far as forums. And we're hopefully, as we do forums this go round, we can get a better way to have more people show up than us going out there and 3 people are showing up. We want to try to make sure that it's out there. So there's some adjustments we're going to make and make sure that that happens. But these are 2 that we know are going to be well attended because they asked us to come and everything.
Is it your plan to just be responsive to requests, people who ask you for a
We're
forum?
gonna have our schedule.
Or
We're gonna have a schedule.
are you going to make a schedule that
Yeah.
says we'll have, 8 forums north of the Broad, 8 forums central, 8 forums Hilton Head, and then you'll decide the best locations?
Yeah, something like that, as well as anybody requesting if we can make it work or whatever, or we can farm them into one that we've already had set up. So the thing is, I think, especially this next year, and I think everybody in the room can agree, the contentiousness that may happen with elections next year, we want to make sure that everything that's out there that they need to know ahead of time versus them coming back after election complaining about something that wasn't really an issue. So we're really going to make a really concerted effort to make sure that that information is out ahead of time, show up and learn everything you need to know. And this was, when they both heard why we said we want to push it to then, they agreed that it made more sense to do it like that, because it was something that everything that we talked to them about will be relevant, versus right now it wouldn't be relevant. So we're looking forward to that being very positive next year as far as our forums and outreach is concerned, reaching a lot of people and making sure that they get the right information.
Okay, when you make that schedule, would you share it with the board,
Oh, yeah,
please?
we're going to give it to you. Yeah,
We
always.
always
We're
do.
going to give you that. We're going to give you that schedule, and we're going to give you the class schedule as well, because we already have dates picked out for that. So we'll give all that to the board. That's it for that. Any questions or anything we're going over?
Okay, thank you. Okay, why don't we go back to the equipment allocation, because I see we have some revised allocations here. Okay, thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman, previous to the sheet I gave you, all of you last board meeting, that was, the only thing I forgot to
Because they're
update
there
was
just
our
to have fun, not for
e-poll book. And I did
information.
make a few adjustments here, with our ballot marking devices, but the e-poll books are matched up where they would, be suffice for a lot of poll locations. Like, for example, down over at, May River High School, I think I had a short number on there because I forgot to adjust it, but, we have Parkside amenity will have 3. Testing, okay. And to make sure that we have enough sufficient electrical folks. I do want our poll workers to feel more comfortable with them, even with this town of Bluffton election, with it being 2 candidates. Publications or anything. I did see something where they're saying that there's going to be 2 candidates. Mark mentioned that the other candidate had with last month, but I don't see Town of Port Royal, we're looking at a good steady flow of voters coming out for that one. Since County Genesee, since we share with Hampton County, this one will probably be not for us or our side on Beaufort County, since we only have 80 voters who are eligible for that election, but I guess in Hampton County, they'll probably have a lot bigger turnout for that one. Because there's 5 candidates going up for 4 going for mayor and 5 going for the 2.
Vernon, can I ask you about May River Baptist Church and Mill Creek Amenity Center?
Sure.
They each have assigned 2 EPBs, but if you look at Parkside with 3, those other 2 locations have similar number of registered voters, so I was just wondering what your thought process was.
Well, the process is, based upon the turnout we've had now, when I went back 2 years ago with the last election, it was a county-wide election because of a school bond referendum. The turnout was actually low with the municipal side, but with this one being 2 candidates, I don't foresee us having 2,400 plus people. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so back on this election, like when I looked at the last couple of elections, I saw that because we had a countywide, we have more participation with the school bond referendum. So with this one, I was looking at it, like we do have, like you got between both of those precincts, you have 2,490 voters who are eligible for the election. Right now for absentee mail, we only had 9 ballots that was requested. And for the turnout, most of these turnouts like this, like municipal elections across the state, you barely will even get that many people that will show up for this type of election. And it's only 2 candidates, and it's 2 seats to fill. So usually with this one, I looked at, I don't foresee a whole heavy traffic going into May River Baptist. And with the flow of voters coming in, the longest process will be check-in. Your voters will be in and out within under 5 minutes with just by getting on the machine to vote. And yes, ma'am.
Port Royal Town Hall is my heaviest number of voters.
Yes, ma'am.
And in September, you had 3 EPBs, and then you took away one today and made it
I can
2.
adjust that. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I can.
Because those people are there when the polling place opens up. In fact, they have lines around the building. Those are real fluid voters there.
I can for May River. You said, Mr. Backer, you said which May River
Church.
Baptist Church. Did you like to request 3 electronic poll books for that one?
I think we can handle it there. At Mill Creek,
Creek?
the room really is relatively small,
Yes, sir.
so 2 right at the entrance will probably work for us.
Okay.
Because that room, it just
Okay.
doesn't flow that well, and it just.
And I'm willing to adjust, like, because I mean, these are like based upon estimates about the election, the turnout, and I'm just trying to look at the percentage of how they were showing up and making sure we can make adjustments. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Victoria.
Robert Smalls Leadership Academy.
Yes, ma'am.
This group tends to come heavily during the lunch hours and
Yes, ma'am.
after work. And I would suggest 4 instead of 3, even though it's 1,000 voters. They kind of do an influx at a certain
Well,
time.
it's for ballot marking devices.
It's
3 plus 1.
Are you talking about
talking about ballot marking devices.
yeah, ballot marking? You look at
No,
your total
it's
number in
got
the red.
Excuse me, I'm looking at it right. No, I'm talking about, it's 3 under ballot marking device and sleeve.
And then your curbside cart, right to the right of it. It's 1. That's 4.
I see the curbside.
That's 4
so that's
BMDs. Yes, ma'am. Your total is in red is the total number that will be at that location. So you want 4 BMDs and then the curbside cart, so it'll be 5.
That's what I think based on my observation.
Because one of the, you've got
Based
2
on my
precincts
visual
there.
observation and the times that they come to vote is a huge influx during the lunch
Yes, ma'am.
and after work. And I wouldn't want just a large number to just show up, but it's just 2 times during the day that they show up.
Yeah.
This
Yes, ma'am.
population works and they show up
Okay.
during
I can-
that break between working.
I can adjust that right there. Okay. Anybody else have any polling locations you might want to recommend or?
Leave mine as is.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I have a general question. I think given the expected turnout for the election on November 4th, it'll be less than 10% turnout everywhere, most likely,
Right.
on Election Day. I believe that the equipment allocations on these sheets will be sufficient for the voters, including the additions requested by Ms. Dorr. Just a question about the process to come up with the counts, though. Because the majority of the locations for EPPs, for example, the majority of them are about 600 voters, 600 or 700 voters
Yes, sir.
per EPB. But in some cases, it's double that. Like Port Royal Town Hall, originally only 2 EPBs for 2,600 voters. That's about 1,300. It's almost twice as many voters per EPB. So I'm just trying to understand the process for calculating the number of equipment.
It's usually, well, we do have a formula that we do use for the number of registered voters per, you know.
Which is shown here.
Yes, sir.
Number of registered
And,
voters.
but usually what I do is, like I said, usually we look at the practicality of the election, like how these election turnouts are, you know, as far as how the turnout might be and yeah, so.
Maybe I wasn't clear.
Yeah.
We're expecting about the same turnout across the county, something less than 10%. So the difference in turnout is not a factor
Well,
in
you
these
got to remember these are
metrics.
3 separate municipal elections. These are, we can't combine them. We're combining them together because they're programmed together. But you have to look at each municipal election as a separate. There's their own separate entities
No,
as
I
far
understand that, but the
yeah.
turnout's going to be about the same for each municipal election.
Yes, sir.
Right? If we get 6 or 7% per municipal election, it's the same percentage of registered voters.
Yes.
So the ratio of equipment to registered voters should be consistent across all voting locations.
Well, yeah, well, you would think, but see, you got to look at the practicality of it. Like, why would I send out like 10 machines out to a location where there's only going to be maybe about out of the 2,586 that's at Port Royal Town Hall, I might anticipate only probably getting 300 voters that might vote in this election. Because municipal elections, statistically, are the lowest turnouts in election. The only time we see a higher number is during when they're grouped together in a general election with like presidential, or like next year will be the governor race. When we have a governor race that we have.
I'm sorry, I'm not clear with my question. You know, I'm
Okay.
assuming the same turnout.
Yes, sir.
Across the county for each of the different municipal elections.
Yes, sir.
So let's say it's
Yes, sir.
10%.
Yes, sir.
That would be great turnout.
Okay.
So if we have 10% turnout at Port Royal Town Hall,
Mm-hmm.
that's about 260 voters. Right?
Correct.
So we have 2 EPBs for 260 voters. But
He agreed to change it to 3.
okay, I'm just using just an example.
Go
This
ahead, yes,
is not specific. But then if we look at Robert Small's leadership, as you know, we're going to make some changes there. But based on these numbers,
Yes.
we had 1,000 registered voters, so 10% will be 100 voters will show up, and they have 2 EPBs. So that's 500 voters per EPV.
That's correct.
So one location has 1 EPB per 130 voters,
Mm-hmm.
and another location has 1 EPB for 50 voters.
Okay.
So the ratio is double at one location at another. So it's not related to the difference in
the other
turnout.
thing is also because of the size of our polling locations.
Okay,
Also,
that's
that
a
was
good
another
reason.
factor.
That's a good
So,
reason.
like at Port Royal Town Hall, it is a little cramped in there, depending on it. And so I was shocked that we even had 3 EPVs. I forgot that we did use 3. I didn't know they actually used all 3 of them in the election, because normally when I went into that location a lot, and many years ago, we used to always try to help them set it up, and it is a little cramped in there. How the way they have, like when you walk into the room, and there's a little another corner room in the back, and there's, of course you have where they sit up there in the front, like the city municipal leaders will sit up at.
Yes.
So we always try to find ways to make it more practical in there, and of course we look at also the spacing of our not our electronic poll books, but our ballot marking devices, because by law they're supposed to be 3 feet apart from each other. And during the pandemic, we went to 6 feet, but now we can move back to 3 feet. So we also look at privacy, and then also space, and also how how the flow, because there's not a back door or any side entrance they can go out of, to my knowledge now. I don't think they can go out the back door, so they have to go back out the same way they came back into the council chambers and stuff.
And the other variable too, you don't have the same amount of voters coming in every hour. It's,
Yeah, so it's, and
The other variable too is based on your ballot marking, you can't just you can have 3, 4, 5, 6 EPBs. You can't keep checking them in because you only have so many machines as it is. So even if you have 3, like for that one location, if you have 3 for Port Royal, each of them checks in 2 people and then they have to wait.
And,
So that's the other thing to consider as
and
well.
Mr. Sweeney, that's now I fully understand, and that's what I try to, usually after the elections also, I'd like to hear from our clerks, and I usually try to find out what is the best method for them in their polling locations, because, you know, we can't physically be at all 84 locations now, and which is a difficult process to be at there. And so I usually try to find, okay, what is the best method for them when they had that election. I know sometimes the clerks and even poll workers, so our poll managers, anybody, to see how that flow was, if they can handle, you know, a lot more space. We got some polling locations where it's really tight in there with, even with the curbside cart going in there. So we try to figure out after each election, how many can you handle? And what's if you can handle more EPO books, if that would be sufficient for you, especially in the big election, our 2024 election. You know, I want to get as many as we possibly can out, because we want to make sure that they can be able to process the voters in a reasonable manner, and at the same time have space and the flow for their voters to come in and out of.
plus the number of the number of things they're voting on.
Yeah,
too,
that's
makes a
correct.
huge
Yeah,
That's
I
correct.
mean, yeah, June is
That's a
gonna be,
giant-
June is gonna be
We'd like
yeah.
to probably match up the same numbers again in 2024 because of the type of races that we're going to have in this.
Okay, so I'd like to vote to accept these equipment allocations with the amendments that were made. So, Ms. Dorr, what was the amendment for Robert Smalls?
Robert Smalls,
I was thinking for EMBs, Ds.
4 BMDs
BMDs, yes.
and 1 curbside. Were there,
That's a really large open space.
They're in that cafe
It can't
over there.
accommodate this in a library.
were there any other changes? I'm sorry, Mr. Backer, did you want to change any?
Yes.
I hadn't finished yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it was 3 EPBs at Port Royal. Now, we may not need that many, but I'm familiar with the setup, and I'm familiar at the hours that it's congested.
Right.
So based on my observation, I
I'll
would
meet you.
say let's have 3 available.
Okay.
We may not need them, but
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Backer, you had?
It was May River Baptist Church to go from 2 to 3 EPBs.
Okay. Yes, sir. I got you. Yes, sir. I haven't been in that church yet to see how, is the layout much better over there?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's a big open,
Yeah,
it's a
in the
really
fellowship hall,
open
right?
space.
Workers demand.
They're in the fellowship hall, right?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's a very open
Open
space.
thing, yeah.
It's really, really good.
Phoenix.
Okay, oh, you have changes? No, okay. So can I have a motion to accept these equipment allocations with 3 amendments? The first one being 3 EPBs instead of 2 at Port Royal Town Hall. The second change being 4 BMDs instead of 3 at Robert Small's leadership. And the third change being 3 EPBs at May River Baptist instead of 2.
Eileen Mitchell, so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question about supply bags, since it is going to be a low turnout election? Which multi-precinct locations are going to get multiple supply bags?
Only May River High.
Only maybe we're asking.
Yep, all the other ones, it's just the lead clerks, the standalone precincts obviously will have one. May River High is the only one that has more than 1 precinct that will get 2 supply
You're going to
bags.
get 2. And the lead clerk's aware and,
Yeah,
okay.
We'll also make sure power cords, extension cords, additional extension cords are there for those locations that might need it, because we don't want to, because I know we're downsizing a little bit. So we'll make sure we have all that.
Yes, ma'am.
Is schooling on
Can I
that day?
mention that Robert Smalls needs extension cords?
Yes, ma'am.
Always.
Yes, ma'am.
Is schooling on that day?
No, they're out of school that day.
Yeah.
I got two boys in school, so we're out. I know all the county. Yeah, they're out of school that day. They voted to be off on November general elections, or just even if it's a municipal election on that, off year. So
Gene, can I ask you a question? You gave me the updated poll work assignments, and I didn't look through it all yet. But on the lead clerk list that you gave me the other day, did that change any with the people who did not attend the?
The only one that I know is different is the one that
Love the library.
is it the library?
That's me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, no, for his, sorry, I need to look.
the lead clerks.
That one, Bluffton 4D, it's not Bill Stalker, it's Andrew Davis.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to look at it.
You should have Mr. Moore, Peter Moore.
Peter Moore.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. So I'd like to also approve the poll workers. So if while we're in executive session, if you could pull that together, we'll deal with that afterwards. Next is executive session under South Carolina Code Section 3470A1 to engage in discussions incident to employment, appointment, or compensation of a person regulated by a public body. In this case, discussion of candidates for the position of Board of Voter Registration and Elections of Beaufort County Director. May I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
This one, I can get that hourly.
And so I have a question about this list. Gene, maybe you know this. What's the minimum amount of poll workers that we have at any given polling location?
5.
5 is the minimum. Okay. All right. For those of you who have polling locations and precincts for this election, do you want to take some time to look at this, or are you comfortable taking a vote?
I'm personally comfortable taking a vote.
Me too.
Yeah. I have the-
Okay.
And that mine a final time.
Okay. Give Beverly a moment.
Bluffton 1D, that's not Mr. Cooper, that's another Donald Cooper.
Yeah, train a poll worker this
Yeah.
summer.
Probably would want one additional person at Port Royal if we can get another person.
There was another person, she didn't come to the briefing. Uptown and Whistle. You're thinking of Mr. Allen.
And if we could just get one other person. 'Cause see, that's the town seat. And a lot of people show up there in Port Royal. If I may make that suggestion.
Gene, is Mr. Stalker still working? He's just not the clerk? Okay, yeah, just so-
clerk.
Yeah, he said,
Yep.
he said he would be the clerk if I couldn't find anybody else to do it. And so I got somebody from Beaufort that wanted to come over and do it for us, so. And we thought this would be a good time to train a lot of new people, and I'm actually training a new clerk during this, because they have an opportunity to take it slow and learn the ropes, right? Because we're gonna need clerks in June. And talking to Gene, I think we're gonna do a few hands-on specialized clerk classes.
Right?
for June.
Just that one suggestion that that would be for Port Royal Town Hall.
Okay, so may I have a motion to accept this list of assigned poll workers with an amendment to make best efforts to add an additional poll worker to Port Royal 1 or Port Royal 2?
So moved.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, item 9, matters arising out of executive session. May I have a motion to establish a search committee that will meet and determine a timeline to post for director and any amendments to the posting, and then post the position accordingly?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Chairman, is that replacing the ad hoc director search committee you already had?
It will be the ad hoc committee with new committee members.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
So the new committee members for the ad hoc search committee will be Mr. Backer, Ms. Mitchell, Mr. Sawicki, and myself.
Chair.
I'll be the chair.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next is closing comments. The only closing comment I have is to thank the staff for working hard to get ready for the November 4th election. Although it's a small election, we know that the election, as all others, have to go on without a hitch. So I appreciate all the hard work that's been put into that, and to the board members who will be very busy on election day and election day evening, thank you for that. And then announcements. So,
Mr. Chair, can
Oh,
I go
yes.
back to, just want to go back to the budget calendar. I forgot to bring it up when you were going over the budget calendar. You have to submit CIP list by the 27th, which actually happens to be Thanksgiving Day, but.
Well, I mean, we don't have to wait till then. I mean,
yeah.
if we come up with it before then, that's fine. You know, that's-
But I was thinking about having some time to at least discuss it in a finance committee meeting. So maybe sometime, you select a time
Okay, I'll
when
give
when you have the election behind you and things settle down a little bit. But because we're having the November board meeting on the 6th, that's not going to align with a board meeting, but we can maybe work something out.
Okay.
have to do a special called Zoom, we can do that too. Okay, thank you. Okay, so announcements, Thursday, November 6th event, following the November 4th election. We will have the Town of Bluffton canvass hearing and certification of election. That's conducted by the Town of Bluffton Municipal Election Commission. Is that a three-person commission?
3-person.
Okay. Our role in that will be just to observe? Okay. Okay. And then at 10:30, we'll have the Town of Port Royal canvass hearing and certification of election, and that will be done by us.
Correct.
Okay.
This location.
That's right.
And then at 11:30, we have a board meeting. Okay.
Chair, excuse me, one
Yes,
thing
ma'am.
that I forgot to list under announcements that was mentioned is just that the hand count audit will be on the 5th at, when to what time?
10 o'clock.
And that's something that's publicly noticed and open to
Right.
the public.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other announcements?
Oh, that'll be here, but that's it.
Okay. All right, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Lean so move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. 3:45.